I want to come from the perspective of the promoter. We talking $1.7 million that you know that this event generated as far as the live ticket sales. And you know we got to stop right there, because there's another way that the promoter earns revenue. Well, there's several different ways, several. And one of them that you all are familiar with is pay-per-view, right? So that was a good event. I mean, almost selling out, that's good. You don't always have to reach the maximum capacity to be a good show. Um, so it was a good show. That was a good outing. The house was packed. That was good. But um, if we look at pay-per-view buys, everybody's been talking about the 50,000, the 50,000, the 50,000, right? Um, let's just use that number because we don't have another number to go on. We know Leonard Ellaby has said certain things as well about the live gate, as far as the numbers. And I know what perspective he was coming in at, but we got to take him as a credible source because of the fact that he is in the business and he's an expert at this. But let's just take 50,000, right? I want to lay a foundation so we can all be on the same page. How much was it? 59.99? It was 59.99, right? Right? It was 59.99 to purchase pay-per-view. So that's about what? 2.9995. We're gonna just round it up to about $500 short. You know what I mean? 3 million, right? So we got 3 million. We got $3 million, and gross receipts of pay-per-view buys. And that's when we'll add the 1.7, right? The number on your screen. So we got about what? 4.7. $4.7 million if we wanted to add the live gate plus the pay-per-view buys together. The event generated $4.7 million. All right. And that's nothing to sneeze at. You know what I mean? That's a huge number. 4.7. 4.7 million. You know? Here's where it get tricky. Now y'all probably can't see this on your screen. And I was trying to do a better job with zooming in, but unfortunately it's not allowing me to zoom in. So what I'll do is basically what's on your screen, I'll just add it up. So what's on your screen is basically the purses that each fighter on the card received, their compensation. That's what that is on your screen. And I just want to just give a perspective from a business standpoint, so that we can understand that sometimes everything don't come in the green. I'm talking about from a promoter standpoint. It happens. Sometimes these things happen. You know, sometimes they come out in the red. Most of the time, promoters lose a lot of money. These things happen. It's business. I didn't say business. I say business. Never personal. It's just business. You know. So we already said the total was. Let's just go round it off 4.7 million, right? Salute to my guy, Big Dean. And so you got to understand that we got 4.7 million was the total amount that was generated via pay-per-view buys and live gate ticket sales, right? Now you got to understand there's a lot of fighters that was on this card, and the purses are on your screen. You probably can't see them, but the purse amounts are on your screen. And so just working our way from the middle one up, excuse me, we got 3 and 5, that's 8, got 18, 2600, 3350, 4850, 70, 90, 110, 185.50. All right, so that's 300,000. That's 300.5. And then you got Devin Haney and Regis both got paid 1.5 a piece, right? So we had 3 million. We just gonna round up to 400,000. All right. So we're gonna say 3.4. Now, if you do the math from the pay-per-view buys and the ticket sales, which all came down to a gross of 4.7 million. You add up all the purses, we're gonna round it off to about 3.4. All right. So that's 4.7 million minus 3.4. Y'all got that? 4.7 minus 3.4. That's 1.4 million. Right? Y'all with me on that, right? That's 1.4 million. Salute to everybody that just joined in. That's $1.4 million, right? That we can say, hey, the promoter, generated $1.4 million in profit. We just gonna that's all we gonna say right there. See what I'm saying? We got ticket sales, live gate, right? Pay-per-view buys. We got that? We clear on that, y'all? We got them numbers together? Everybody with me? I know we got the new audience that just came through. Remember the 1.7 for the new audience, that the 1.7 that you see right there. And the 1.7, that 1.7 million right there. Remember that 1.7? That was for the live gate. At that 1.7 right there. Right? Then I told y'all we gonna round that 50,000. We just gonna do it for argument's sake. We don't know if it was 50,000 pay-per-view buys or not. But for argument's sake, we rounded that off. And after we rounded that number off, which was $59.99 times 50,000, right? Y'all got that, right? We rounded that off. I told y'all we're gonna round it off. And so when we added both them numbers up, the total, everything came to 4.7. Remember? Then we added the purses of the fighters, the 3.4. Remember? That where we get that 1.3 at. That 1.3 million and some change. Now, that was the 1.3 million. The promoter can say, all right, I profited $1.3 million. All the numbers was generated through the pay-per-view buys and live gate. Now, look at the list of the purses and the compensation, that have to be, excuse me, compensation that have to be provided to all of those fighters that rendered their services. Everything came up $1.3 million in profit for the promoter. It doesn't stop there. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, members of the roll, the tape, film crew. Okay? Don't stop there. There's other expenses involved that have to come out that 1.3 million that was already paid before any fighter even swung a right or a left hand. Before the venue even allowed fans to come into the venue, there was other expenses that had to come out of that $1.3 million for profit. And what I mean by that is the promoter had to put up money up front. So now that's going to go against the profit of the 1.3 million. Okay? There was a belt on the line, wasn't it? There was a championship title on the line. WBC, correct? Y'all remember that, right? What did we learn the other day on this channel? What did I educate you all on? I put it all on the screen. Remember the expenses that the promoter had to pay? The WBC president, remember? The ones that were sanctioning this fight, facilitating it, because obviously their champion, Regis Prograis, was a WBC champion. Y'all remember that the other day, right? Okay. Remember? The promoter had to accommodate. The promoter had to accommodate the president of the WBC, the supervisor of the WBC, 5 additional officials, any designees that the president of the WBC, authorized to join him. Work got to be at the capacity of work. Remember, I told y'all this. I showed y'all all the rules on the screen the other day. Y'all remember that? That's that's the accommodating those seating arrangements, right? Okay, you remember that, right? And remember, we also learned through their rules and regulations that the promoter was also financially responsible for the transportation, the lodging, the meals, and other incidentals of the president, right? The supervisor, those 5 officials, and any amount of designees, which we don't know how many designees that the WBC president assigned in the capacity of work to join. I say let's just use 4 as the max. I just said that the other day. I'm just using that as a reference. So we already got at least 8 to 10 people right there. Lodging, transportation, and they flew through the air, every last one of them, and it's first class when they all fly. And meals and other incidentals. That's out of the 1.3 million right there. That was paid up front though. But I'm just saying it's going against the $1.3 million profit. You see? Stay with me, y'all. Stay with me. Stay with me. Now, what else is coming out of the $1.3 million profit? Well, there's certain fees that the promoter must pay the sanctioning body, the state of California. So the California State Athletic Commission, they have fees. They have surety bond fees. Okay. All right. Insurance. Remember, a promoter cannot legally host an event without adequate insurance. And speaking of insurance, I'm going to tell y'all a secret real quick. And I want y'all to hear me and hear me good with both ears. Did y'all know in standard boxing contracts, let me let y'all see my eyes. Did y'all know in standard boxing contracts that the promoter has a life insurance policy on the fighters that he or she promotes in case any fighter dies in the event of rendering their services? Did y'all know that? Okay. You ain't gonna find it nowhere. That's why I'm glad you're here today. That was speaking of insurance. So there's insurance that it has to be paid to the state of California, host that event. Okay. Now, there's sales taxes that the promoter must pay on every ticket sold to the state of California. Okay. There's another fee that has to be paid after all of the pay-per-view buys. This is just standard. All of the pay-per-view buys are tallied up. There's a fee that the promoter must pay. All this is coming out of the 1.3 million. Oh, it doesn't stop there. You know, it doesn't stop there. You know, now some commissions will take these expenses that I'm about to tell y'all outside of the surety bond. Sometimes they don't. It depends. Every state got different rules. We got security now. Security. You got security that comes with the venue. Not gonna go there, but hey, every venue needs security, crowd control, the whole nine. Promoter gotta pay that. That's not free. There's an ambulance there, sometimes two, depending on how big the event is. Medical personnel, it's not free. Promoter gotta pay that. All the officials, the judges, once they pay that upfront cost to the commission is responsible to, because they are all employed and licensed through the commission of that state. The judges, the referees, the timekeepers, ringside position, the inspectors of that state. It's not free. Okay? All right. Somebody got to put the ring together. See, you don't see this part when you go to a boxing event, because by the time you get there as a fan, the ring is already installed. That's not free. Professionals install that boxing ring, and they get paid to do that. Promoter got to pay that. Okay? Now, of course, the promoter has sponsorships, resources to be able to help defray the cost of this stuff. But I'm just using this as a reference just so y'all can understand. Okay? Now, let's start with all the fighters that was on that card. I talked about their purses, but what other expenses that's associated with those fighters? Well, their medicals. They get their physical. That's not free. Promoter got to pay for that. That's each fighter now. Unless they have representation. The promoter can tell a representation that you manage this fighter, you kick out a couple of dollars. Sometimes the promoter just do it on the strength of them being the opponent. It depends. Every promoter is different with that too. Don't let me start out. Don't let me go there with that. I got a little issue with a couple of expenses they try to, put on the manager. That's neither here nor there. Okay. Now, if the promoter is responsible for allowing the WBC or the BA, BO, IBF, IBO officials to be given transportation and, lodging and meals and incidentals, they do the same thing with the fighters on the card. And that's one fighter. Sometimes they'll do two trainers. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes they just pay for one fighter and one trainer. But most of the time, especially big fights like this, they'll do, one trainer, one cut person, you know what I mean? Or they'll do one fighter and two trainers. Depends. Bottom line is, let's say that's 3 round trip tickets to every fighter on that card, right? Opponent and a side. Okay? They all got to get a per diem. That's the meal allowance. All got to get a per diem. Now remember, they there for what? About 3 days. You know what I mean? Sometimes they come in Wednesday, sometimes they fly in Thursday. It depends. You know what I mean? Or they really did 3 nights and 4 days. You know. But I'm saying that's for each fighter on the card. You know, lodging, you know, hotels is they charge per night. These are all the expenses from the promoter. So what I'm saying is all of this is coming against that $1.3 million that was profited at the end.